Hey there, Sagittarius. Welcome to your reading for the rest of 2025. We're going to jump right in here. Each row is going to represent something different, and your first row is going to represent what is being revealed to you at this time. You have this simplicity card and this opportunity card. Yeah, at the beginning of the year of 2025, obviously, I said that the keyword for 2025 would be like efficiency, simplicity, things like that. So, you could be finding opportunities that really are just very simple, that you could keep simple and not overcomplicate, and that'll make your life easier. And again, this has been a big theme in 2025, and I think it's come up for you specifically before. And so I would be looking for the simple opportunity. The other reason I say this is because at the end of the year here, there is like a little bit of overcomplicated energy. We have Mercury going retrograde. We also have Neptune and Saturn retrograde. Neptune alone in Pisces is like an illusion, a fantasy, something that isn't real. And so we just have to keep things simple. I think the easiest thing to do is follow your inspirations, with Neptune retrograde in Pisces. Typically what happens, like the bad direction to move in, is you come up with something overcomplicated and then you don't want to do it. If you feel like you do want to do something, and it's coming from like an inspired place, then your life will be made more simple. And, I would just pay attention to like what is fulfilling you, what seems exciting. I would pay attention to the things that are feeling inspired as well. As usual, you show up in your reading. So again, in the row of what's being revealed to you at this time, we have the Wheel of Fortune, the Five of Swords, and the Five of Wands. A Wheel of Fortune can be you, and it is your card, Sagittarius. So whenever you show up as yourself, it puts you in a position of power and strength. The Wheel of Fortune is like also, as far as something being revealed is concerned, it would be about a change in your fortunes or a change in your destiny. I always say that the Wheel of Fortune is your destiny, how you see it. It is your personal vision for your life. So it's a good card, but sometimes I think people make it out to be a better card than it actually is. Is it your true destiny? Maybe not necessarily, because again, it's like usually we have an idea of like what would be a good life for us to live. And that's kind of like the Wheel of Fortune. We want to start moving towards that. I also feel that you could be seeing things that you can take control of. The Wheel of Fortune, we want to make sure that it is spinning forwards, not backwards. So you could be, what's being revealed is how to get the wheel spinning forward more. And I would definitely pay attention to that. On top of all that, you have the Eight of Cups, Tower, and the Ten of Swords, the Nine of Swords here. This looks a little bit scary, but those cards, the reading itself I don't think is a bad reading at all. But what I would say is the Wheel of Fortune, we have this snake on the side of the wheel, and the snakes are guardians of portals, and snakes represent fears, and usually anything we want in life is on the other side of something we haven't done before, right? And so sometimes when we want something, we have to face a fear to get it. And, again, that is definitely a theme that is coming up in your reading. And so, again, are these big fears? No. It could just be the fear of speaking up, the fear of talking to a person, the fear of, applying for that job. That seems impossible. I would face some sort of fear right now. I wouldn't wait until the end of the year. You have the Five of Swords. Five of Swords could be about things that you need to walk away from. Again, we're asking what is being revealed to you. In your next row, you have the Eight of Cups. It could be becoming clear to you what is a waste of time, what no longer serves you, and all those things. The Eight of Cups is choosing not settle, which is pretty crazy, Sag, because I think all year, like a message that you have been receiving a lot with me is to not settle for less than you deserve. And you're like the only sign that gets that message all the time. So definitely you could be gaining clarity on that. We are ending the year here with a Mercury retrograde in November, pretty much all of November. It starts on the 9th, it ends on the 29th, but we'll be in the shadow on the 21st of October. And so, pretty much right here at the end of the year, there could be a lot of reflection going on. I think this retrograde is actually pretty good. I think it's a confusing one for sure. And, there's definitely confusion, but I think on a personal level, it is going to be good for pretty much all of us because it does seem to be a retrograde that could be bringing clarity on what we've already been doing, which is usually what happens during Mercury retrograde anyway. But, again, I think this is saying make the decision to walk away from things that no longer serve you. Finally, you have the Five of Wands in this row. Five of Wands can be conflict or competition. The funny thing is we just had those two eclipses, one in Pisces, one in Virgo. The weird thing about the Virgo eclipse is that it absolutely could have shown you like competition in your life. It could have shown you where there are people who are doing things to create competition for you as well. Is this bad? No, I think this is a good thing because, again, if you study the competition with the Five of Wands, then you can beat the competition. So I think it would be an amazing time for you to study the competition, try to overcome the competition, look at what they're doing, what they're not doing, all that stuff. Yes. With the Wheel of Fortune, you have the Nine of Swords. Nine of Swords is a cycle. It is a never-ending nightmare. It's something that is repeating in your life. So, very simple message all the way across, really, that there is a repeat cycle that needs to come to an end. Nine of Swords, I do consider it to be the worst card in the deck. But is it really bad? No, he could easily get out of his bed and he could easily change his situation. I do feel like you are going to do that. You have the Eight of Cups also. So again, the Eight of Cups is kind of saying to me, to you, that you are going to be leaving something behind. With the Five of Swords, you have the Queen of Cups. Queen of Cups is about following your heart. Sometimes it is hard to follow your heart and, do what your heart is telling you to do. Like if it's telling you to walk away from something, that could be a little bit of a challenge, but I feel it would be worth it with the Queen of Cups, so I would do it. With the Five of Wands, you have the Eight of Cups. Yes, definitely. Whenever this happens, whenever I have a card here, and then whenever that card starts the next row, to me, this is like the reading is zooming in on that Eight of Cups energy. It's providing us with more detail. And so this next row is going to represent what's been kept hidden from you, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But, again, maybe it hasn't been obvious on, like, what you should be walking away from or what you should be removing from your life. And the good news is I think it's becoming obvious. This probably started in September. I think maybe you had some, if you think back to September, maybe you had some, like, breakthroughs or, not like really big breakthroughs, but understandings where you started to understand something. We were getting very close to the end of Pluto retrograde in September, even though not really, but kind of, because Pluto just went direct on October 14th. But as we went through September, again, Pluto was slowing down as it was going backwards, and now it's finally moving forward. In Pluto retrograde, we really can kind of get to the bottom of, anything really in our lives. So I feel like maybe, starting in September, you started to notice like what no longer served you or what you need to walk away from, and that is probably a good thing. Your next row here is going to represent what's been kept hidden from you at this time. You have this barrier card and this commit card. Yeah, I think that you have to commit to letting things go. I don't know, it's kind of a weird, the end of the year here. I didn't really expect this. And, but a message that I have been getting at the end of the year is that we, all of us, I think, could be making decisions to cut certain things out of our life, but it's like a final decision. It's like once we cut it out, we're never going back. So, it kind of tells me that we, as a collective, are maybe making some very big changes, permanent. And I feel like that commit card is saying you are making these permanent changes in your life. Again, in the area of what's been kept hidden, you have the Eight of Cups, the Death card, and the Queen of Cups. I think the Eight of Cups is talking about since, like, September. It's the only card in the tarot that has an eclipse on it, right here. So I feel since that eclipse time, the Pisces-Virgo eclipses that we just had, you've been making some decisions. Maybe you haven't committed to them just yet, but I feel like you're about to. Eight of Cups, he's more importantly for you, Sagittarius, he is choosing to completely walk away from something that no longer serves him. Those 8 cups, there's 1 cup missing. So the Eight of Cups is somewhat of a challenge because those 8 cups do provide him with something, but it's just not what he wants or not enough. And he would be settling if he stayed in the situation. Again, all year you've been getting this message. So I think it might be a good time during the Mercury retrograde to just think, like, what are you settling for? Or, what would be settling for you? I don't know. And only you can answer that question. And I think answering that question, could have you kind of going down a new path. We even go down to the Hermit in the Tower here. The Tower is about entering into a completely new reality, and maybe that's what you're doing. You have the death card, so big changes. Like I said, these are permanent changes that you're making, Sagittarius, with that Eight of Cups and the Five of Wands, Five of Swords, Nine of Swords. I think these are permanent changes that you're making in your life. You're never going back to something, and you're just moving forward. I also, we have the two pillars from the moon right here on the death card, and the sun is coming up between those two pillars. Normally, whenever I pay attention to that, I feel that it's talking about clarity. And I do feel that this retrograde could be bringing some clarity. But I feel for you, Sagittarius, that this is more about sticking to things. You have that commit card. You have those two pillars. The two pillars on the moon are a warning to the Fool. They basically tell him he has to complete something. He has to see something through to the end. And I kind of get that energy for you, where it's like once you make a decision, you have to stick to it and not change. And so, yeah, I think it's just talking about your commitment. You have the Queen of Cups again, and I feel that you are moving towards more fulfillment or living a more fulfilled life. I feel a lot of you have maybe done too much for other people over the years, and the Queen of Cups is saying that Sagittarius is no longer doing that. So it's kind of a simple message on the Queen of Cups. I just feel that you're more focusing on things that will bring you fulfillment, focusing on doing more for yourself. And, it's like, has this really been kept hidden from you? No, but maybe you have been hiding from it. If you haven't been nurturing yourself or nurturing the things you care about, you're going to be doing more of those things. With the Eight of Cups, you have the Ace of Swords. Yeah, the Ace of Swords would be your truth, plain and simple. The Ace of Swords, the best and easiest way to be successful with the Ace of Swords is laser-like focus. Picking a focus, committing to it, and doing nothing else. And also making sure that other people, things, situations, whatever, making sure that those things don't get involved in what you're doing, right? We have to be very, very focused. They say it's lonely at the top, right? And the Ace of Swords is above the mountains on the Ace of Swords. You have the Hermit. He is standing on top of the mountain alone, right? I'm kind of getting that message for you here, Sag, where, some of you might be doing some things in your life where it's like no one is coming with you. That doesn't mean you're going to be alone, but it just means that it is kind of lonely. It's like I've had businesses. I started my first business when I was 16, cleaning fish tanks. And, it is lonely to do that on your own. It's like, especially, I always had very supportive people in my life, but, finding people who understand is hard. And, I kind of feel that energy on the Ace of Swords, where it's like you could be doing things where it's like, yeah, you have people, but, the understanding is the hard part. I really don't have any good advice for you other than it's worth it. It's been worth it for me, to do these things. And eventually you do find people, who understand. So whatever it is you're doing, I'm not saying it's business. It could be anything for you. You have the Death card. You have the Seven of Wands. Seven of Wands is a card of conviction. Like I said, Seven of Wands is knowing that you know that something is for you. You have to make that full commitment to completing your journey with the two pillars from the moon on the Death card. And again, the Fool is alone on his journey on the moon card, right? There's something about that, the loneliness or something is popping into my head here, Sag. The other funny thing that's popping into my head is you might not be feeling this second. You might not be feeling alone right now, but I feel like some of you are about to do something where there might be some of those moments where you just wish someone would understand, but they don't. And, I like I said, I wish I had better advice for you other than, I think it'll be worth it, whatever it is that you're doing. With the Queen of Cups, you have the Ten of Swords, which you have twice as well in this reading. I think you recently had a reading where you had a bunch of repeating cards. Again, no one has had a bunch of repeating cards in this set of readings, so pretty weird. The Ten of Swords says something is dead, done, over with. And again, this is like that final decision that we were talking about. Ten of Swords is also a blessing in disguise. So a lot of you could be experiencing like a blessing in disguise at this time. Next, we're going to look at what adventure the universe is sending you on right now. And you have this Scorpio card. It says investigate, yes. You have this Mars card. It says motion, yes. I think with the Pluto retrograde, like we were talking about, that it is a great time for you to investigate things. This Mercury retrograde will be great for you, Sagittarius, for investigating your plans for your life on a deeper level. So this could represent like deep research, looking into things, all that other stuff. I also think that, again, I tell people all the time, I make mistakes on purpose during Mercury retrograde. I love astrology, I love tarot, but it is not a prison sentence, right? It's like everybody always says to me, how could you say that we should be taking action during Mercury retrograde? I'm always like, oh my God, let me clutch my pearls harder, right? It's like, yeah, sure. If you want to live life like that, sure, go for it. Don't do anything during Mercury retrograde. But number one, nothing has ever happened to me that's like bad enough that I feel like I shouldn't take action during Mercury retrograde. Number two, I don't know, some of the best months of my life have been Mercury retrograde. Number three, on top of that, if you're working on something and making motions or making moves on something you've already been doing in your life, then it doesn't matter. It's perfectly acceptable to work on what you've been working on during a retrograde. You have the Three of Wands, the Hermit, and the Eight of Swords. Yeah, I feel all year we've been talking to you about getting back to your adventurous self. Part of me wonders if this Mercury retrograde is kind of returning you to your Sagittarius adventurous self. Three of Wands, he has these three ships that are on the water here, and they represent adventuring into the unknown. You have that investigate card, which is also about investigating something. The other interesting thing that's popping into my head is this Mars card is card number 22. 22 is a master builder number. 22 is a pain in the ass for sure. I actually, before I moved here, I was living in a house number 22. The thing about 22 energy is that it's like sometimes you have to like build something and then you have to build it again, right? When I was living in that house for like 2 years, it's like I am right now, I am rebuilding what I was rebuilding that I started, that I had to rebuild already in that house, right? And so it's like, it's not really about perfectionism either with number 22. What it's about is that it's about like learning through the process of building. You build something, you learn a lot, and then you realize, oh, I have to make some changes. Then you build again. Then you realize you have to make some changes, and then you build again. And I'm kind of wondering if like that's what you have been going through, Sagittarius. It's like you build something, you learn a bunch, and then you realize the changes you have to make. Could be part of your journey. You have the Hermit. The Hermit wants you to shine your light, for sure. The Hermit is also isolation. And I was getting that message of isolation for you, Sag, where maybe you've been feeling isolated, or maybe there have been moments of isolation that you've been experiencing, something like that. And I do feel it's kind of like time for you to come down from the mountain. I think that the Hermit, he is, like, sometimes I think his next step is to come down from the mountain, and that's definitely what I would do with the Hermit card. I forgot to say, make sure to leave a comment, really helps me out, but also come down from the mountain here. You have the Eight of Swords. I almost think it would be good for you to look at your limitations as well. Eight of Swords is self-imposed restriction, but we're asking the universe what adventure Sagittarius should go on at this time. And I feel that you should explore the things that have been limiting you because, number one, you could find out that the things that you're dealing with aren't really a limitation. Or you could be discovering another solution. The whole point of the Eight of Swords is that she's only seeing one way of doing things when there are many ways to do things. So anything that has been limiting you, I would learn about it and see what you can come up with. Let's see. With the Three of Wands, you have the Hermit again. So more repeating cards. Again, repeating cards are good because it basically is the universe saying I meant what I said. It's kind of like confirmation for the message. The Hermit with the Three of Wands would be about getting out into the world, returning to your adventurous self. With the Hermit, you have the Queen of Wands. Yes, Queen of Wands, she learns as she goes. So again, more Sagittarius energy. She kind of like doesn't really know what the outcome is going to be of her adventure, her journey, but she's willing to just, move towards it because it brings her happiness. She has this sunflower right here, and the sunflower points towards the sun. The Queen of Wands literally encourages us to move towards the sun. Happiness, joy, enlightenment, good vibes, good feelings, and, our inner child even as well. And so I feel that following the sun is probably what she wants you to do. With the Eight of Swords, you have the Death card. Again, so we go this direction, Death card twice. The Death card is an end, so you could be ending this stuck energy with the Eight of Swords, which is great. The death card with the tower, can be the death of establishment. We have the king, who is dead underneath the death rider. The king being dead just says that even kings die. Things that we think are going to last forever, sometimes they don't. We have the crown falling off of the tower. It's like literally saying that something that has been established is going away. Is this a bad thing? No, it actually is exactly what the astrology is right now. Next, we're going to look at what pattern do you need to release at this time. You have this delicate rose. Here you go. It says, be willing to honestly say what you feel, no matter how terrifying it may seem. Yes. You have this moth spirit. It says, appreciate where you are in your journey instead of wishing it were easier or different. Yes. I feel that it's definitely a good time to speak up. I mean, pretty much everyone has had a message about speaking up, speaking their mind. We have Saturn going into Aries. There's like two things that are going on right now. Number one is we have to be authentic, and to be authentic, we have to say what we mean. And so I really feel that during Saturn and Aries, which Saturn enters back into Aries on February 26th of next year. But it's already been in Aries, so we might as well get started now. And we really have to speak our mind, speak up, share our thoughts, be willing to say how we honestly feel, all those things. And, that could be a pattern that you're breaking, is like holding back or not revealing how you truly feel. You have the Four Swords, the Four Wands in the Tower. The Four Swords can be resting, relaxing, recovering. So pushing too hard could be a pattern that you're breaking. If you're doing too much. I always make the joke that I know a ton of Sagittarius. I have a bunch of Sag friends. They all have like a million side hustles. They all have full-time jobs and do 20 other things, right? So maybe taking a break would be a good idea for you, or maybe carving some time out for yourself. I think that Sag has been experiencing a lot of responsibilities or obligations over the years. You've probably experienced pressures from your obligations. I think I've said to you before, it wouldn't surprise me if over the last 2 years, maybe you lost a job or got laid off. That definitely showed up in your astrology. And, if that happened, obviously you're going to feel the pressure of an obligation. Is that exactly what happened? I don't know. Maybe something else happened with your finances, or, maybe some sort of financial obligation came up. But it's like now the universe is saying, now it's time to take a break. Now it's time to heal. You have the Four Wands. Four Wands is about commitments. I really just think this is Pluto and Aquarius for most people. Sure, could this be marriage? Sure. But if we're going to do something, we have to go all the way. The two pillars from the moon on the death card. On the moon card, there are the mountains in the background. And so the Fool, it's part of the Fool's journey. He has to climb those mountains. And the Four Wands says anything worth doing is going to be worth finishing and completing and doing right, as well. So I feel this is saying if you're going to do something, you really have to commit to go all the way. You have the Tower. Again, I'm not too worried about the Tower. It's kind of funny. A couple of people have had the Tower, and I feel kind of good about it. As in, sometimes the Tower can bring in light bulb moments, sudden realizations about life. And so I don't know that I feel too bad about this. Sure, I feel like the one difference for Sag is that you could be experiencing something that is dissolving with that death card, the death of establishment, something that has been part of your life for a long time, could be changing, or, you could be experiencing a different energy around something. Like if you have a passion, or if you've been working on a project for a long time, you might be discovering that you don't want to do it. I would say that it's not that you don't want to do it, but there might just be a piece of what you're doing that you want to do, but not the big picture, right? And so it's like you're becoming more focused, and I feel that would be a good energy for you here, Sag. It's like you're becoming more specific with that Ace of Swords. Let's see. With the Four Swords, you have the Empress. Yes, definitely, needing to... This is like what you just coming as you are is what I'm trying to spit out here. Sometimes, and there you go. My mom just texted me. So there you go. Mom says yes as well. But what I would say here is that sometimes I think with the Empress that before she shows up in a reading, we are maybe trying too hard. The Empress doesn't try hard. She just comes as she is. And I think that's the message for you there. With the Four Wands, you have the Three of Swords. I do think it would be a great time to break any cycles in love. We have kind of good energy for love. Love is definitely changing. I've been talking about this since 2023. In 2023, we ended some long-term cycles that we had going on in Scorpio. long story short, love is changing. And so, but, again, if you want love, then you have to heal. Even if you don't want love, the Empress says you have to love yourself. And so the Three of Swords is about forgiveness. We have to remove those swords from our own heart so that we can heal, and that's what I would do here. With the Tower, you have the Five of Pentacles. Five of Pentacles, feeling left out in the cold. Like I said, it's funny that I said that, like if you were laid off or something like that, right? I think you have to look at your own reflection. Sometimes I think when something happens, a person leaves us, we get fired, we get laid off, we kind of take it personally. And there's something about that here for you, Sagittarius, with the Tower, is that maybe you have to look at those things that you take personally and realize that it's not personal. And that could be what you're healing here as well. Maybe you have a habit of doing that. Maybe you have a habit of needing closure at the end of a relationship. It's like, I know it's nice to get closure, but, I always say, like, as adults, do we really need closure with a person? No, we really don't. Really, what's a person going to say? I want to leave you. Like, maybe like, I know we think there has to be a reason, but sometimes there just isn't, Next, we're going to look at what ridiculous goal should you pursue at this time. Again, the reason I set this last row as your ridiculous goals, this is our last chance with Neptune in Pisces and Saturn in Pisces retrograde right now to accomplish your impossible goal. You have this great water card. It says yearning, dreams, wishes, goals, abroad, foreign people, Sagittarius, right? Spirituality, broadening horizons, new news. You have this change card. It says change or movement in your life. New direction, relocation, progress, change of view, job, partner, or heart. So you literally could just be adventuring. That could be the goal, is to just, break out of your current situation, your current life, and go on an adventure, create a change. You have the Nine of Swords, the Knight of Cups, and the Ten of Swords. Nine of Swords is that never-ending nightmare, that round-around energy. So I feel a lot of you could be bringing some sort of never-ending nightmare to its conclusion, which is probably a good thing. Nine of Swords really wants us to take control. I always say that there's a person hitting another person with a sword right here. And the Nine of Swords says you can be the bug or the windshield. You have a choice. You can be the immovable force or the thing that gets splatted on the windshield. And I would obviously choose being the immovable force. You have the Knight of Cups. Could be a little bit of love here, like I said. So if you want love, I would definitely heal because there could be a solid connection if you don't already have one. The Knight of Cups is also about your dream. He's very dreamy. He has this water flowing in front of him. He's standing in the desert where pretty much nothing can grow. But if he plants seeds in front of that water, they will grow. So whatever your goal is, I would just start making moves because it looks like, really, I mean, you're like the only sign where I feel like there's pretty much nothing you have to do other than get started. And so I would get moving. You have the Ten of Swords. Yeah, I think this is about learning to let go. I don't know what it is, but a couple of signs this month, or in this set of readings, I should say, have had this message of just like completely releasing something and not going back or not looking for answers. I really can't explain it, but it's been coming up, so I'm going to say it. And the Ten of Swords can be a blessing in disguise, so usually we should. With the Nine of Swords, you have the Knight of Cups, more repeating cards. So, basically the universe saying I meant what I said. This could say that love is something that you should allow in your life, even if it's just loving yourself, like I said. It doesn't have to be a person. And so that's definitely an energy I would work on. With the Knight of Cups, you have the Queen of Pentacles here. For some reason, I thought you had her twice. You don't, but the Queen of Pentacles is about resourcefulness and using your resources, growing your resources, and that could be a goal that you have, is to become more financially secure, more financially stable. I really feel with that Empress that this should not be something that requires 1,000 hours a week. This should not be something that requires 20 side hustles, right? I think you need to believe you are good enough as you are with that Empress. Again, Empress is a good card, but sometimes I feel like in a reading like this, it just gives me the vibe of doing too much. It's like when we do that, as a person who did that myself for many years, when we over deliver, then we're basically telling the universe, hey, I have to work really hard to make money or to be successful. And I feel this is saying, like, you need to start telling the universe that good things can come to you easily. With the Ten of Swords, you have the Seven of Cups. Seven of Cups is like being spoiled for choice. I feel that if you are releasing something, that you are going to realize that you probably have a lot more options than you realize. And, it's like if you're holding on to a past relationship, for example, I'm not saying that's what it is, I'm just using it as an example. You're basically saying this bozo is the best that I can do, right? I feel like the universe wants you to believe that you deserve better here, Sag. I'm going to end it with that. So this looks really good. Thank you for being here. Make sure to leave a comment. Really helps me out. And definitely enjoy your year.